HandkerchiefGal here, bringing you a video about first grade. So if you're trying to decide if you should do first grade or kindergarten, this should help you. I have a kindergarten video out that I did a few years ago. If you're curious, kindergarten in ACE is a little bit more like preschool. They don't teach you to read in kindergarten. So first grade has a reading program that starts with just 2 of the subjects. These are called PACES, and they come in each subject. So they have, for kindergarten, you have word building and animal science, which start you off. And animal science has stories, just like in the kindergarten. It has stories that you read. They're character building stories, and they have the animal, like this is about the zebra and what he did. So usually I hold this up so I can see, and then I put the pages that the kids can see and hold that up, and I read it. Zzz, went Buzzy Bee. She had just found a nice flower bed. So that's how I read, and then I turn the pages as it tells me to. A lot like kindergarten, but you don't have the big notebook that you're dealing with. So that's super nice. Every day or two, I read one of these stories. And then the student has the word building. And this is in the 12 weeks reading program. There are files that you can get, big thick files. There's 2 of them, and it's for the first grade. So in kindergarten, there's 4 of them. In first grade, it's 2 of them. I have never used those because I did ACE, so I understand the instructions, but that might be good if you're just starting cold turkey straight to first grade. So with word building, it starts out pretty simple. You're just copying the letters. So in kindergarten, you're supposed to trace the letters with your finger, but they don't actually have you write. So this one starts telling you how to write. This I find to be really important to watch the kids as they do it. Some start at the bottom and go up, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, and in our world of typing it probably isn't. But I've noticed if I don't catch them when they're this age, then as they get older, they're slow in writing because their letters don't flow. They have these arrows on here, guides you to do it. Pages where you do stuff like you circle the X sound, so fox has an X, X-ray, so sometimes you have to figure this out. That's not a cow, that's an ox. It's a 6, it's, you know, a box, and that would be a mug or a cup. Neither one have X. So as long as I'm sitting there going, oh, that's an axe, it's not a hatchet, it's an axe. The cartoons are introduced more in these, and they don't have any words, but usually I go over it with the kids on what's happening in it. And then here they actually write the letter below it, so some of the pictures are the same, sometimes they're different, and you just have to make sure they're doing the right one. Read these words to you. A lot of times there's a lot more than that, but they read these. So you're sitting there and they're going ta 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 ah ta 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 x, and then you have them repeat it. So the first 12 weeks of first grade is teaching reading, and they have it narrowed down where it's 2 subjects. It's the animal science, which is the story, and it's the word building, which is teaching them how to form the words and how to read. So as you get a little bit further along, they have different activities where they read the sentence and then they write it down. They do silly sentences like the bat, cat, had a hat, and repetitive things. But they don't do a ton. I mean, I'm just flipping through here. This is one of the last word buildings. And challenging for the kids, but I've been really impressed with how they learn and adapt. It starts out with just animal science and word building, and I also throw math in there as they kind of get into it. Math starts out where it has a first page that they're supposed to read, but I usually read that to them because I want them to work on writing their numbers. So they can write numbers, they do addition. This is about halfway through the math curriculum for first grade. And sometimes, especially little boys, are really phenomenal at math. And then they just have, you know, different ways of adding, different ways of subtracting. They have a verse that you memorize and you write down. I really like how they like teach addition, and then they teach subtraction, and then they go back to addition. So they're learning that this little sign is really important. And anyway, so some fun pages. There's checkups, so this is really kind of giving them a chance of what the set checkup's like, saying their verse, I usually, when they're first starting off, I'll write the letters above their verse that they're supposed to write down, and then they write it. Like over here, I would put, providing for honest things, I would put EST above it, and then have them copy it. And sometimes by the end of the page, they can do it themselves. But I don't expect a ton out of them in math because they haven't really learned to read yet. So I'll read them the instructions, and if they need it, and they kind of just take off on the numbers by themselves, and we make sure that they form the numbers correctly. After you finish the word building and the animal science, then you add in the other subjects, which is English and social studies and science. So in these subjects, they will start reading. And it'll be slow going. It's not going to be super fast. Sometimes I add English in a little bit early. But, so this page, the first page, is going to be a super large page for them to read. So sometimes, you know, I'll read one line, have them read the next line. But it's usually pretty repetitive, like to write beginning sounds, to write ending sounds. Like, they'll build up their confidence. But the first page, I wouldn't stress too much about that, especially at the beginning when they're learning. And then there's like a fun page. This is English. And then you have practicing your handwriting. So by now they've written all of the letters of the alphabet, and this is just asking them to practice it. So they're actually making words. So you can read them for them and be like, wow, you just made a word. And verses in these that they need to say. So I'll usually say, I can do all things through Christ. And then they repeat it to me, and then I'm like, good job, and I'll sign the verse, and they have to fill in that. So, more fun pages. These pages are also pages for them to read. They're learning blend sounds, so then I have them read each word for me first, and then they go through and write it. And sometimes, if it's a child that is very, this is overwhelming for them, I'll give them an M&M after they do one line. And I found that just the promise of that helps them get over, like, reading isn't a big deal if they know that once they get to the writing, they get an M&M or a Cheerio or whatever you want to use. This, again, can be kind of daunting because they're just starting out, but they also will look at the sentence, or will look at the picture, and they'll try to, like, he waves a whip, you know, and you're like, no, we got to sound it out. But again, you have the repetitive words right here, the white whip, the whip, the whip. You know, it's repetitive, so once they get the down, they have the first that. And then you can laugh about how silly the sentence is. Before the checkup, they're actually writing, copying the sentences. And these are really important because it teaches them to put periods, it teaches them a capital letter, teaches them to, like, preview how much they can fit on one line. Super important. And again, you can do Skittles or something as they finish this. Then there's social studies and science, and they're very similar. They go over basic facts. They're going to learn new words, read stories, answer questions, learn about AC and Baba. So they're going to memorize that scripture verse. They're going to read new words to you. These are going to be words that they will say. They will see written, and they have them underlined. So it's just making sure they understand what it means. Play, you know, obviously can. So by the time they get to this page, all their new words they've already seen and experienced. Little lamb, can you play? Can you play, little lamb? So it's repeating, putting it in different orders again and again. This is an excellent reading program. I have had, not all of my kids go through this because 2 of our children were adopted and they were taught reading in public school, and they both learned reading really well, are amazing spellers, but they didn't have the love for reading when they moved into our house. And it's been developed, but ACE does a great job of just putting that in them. Even my 5-year-old, who's just learning to read, loves reading. Somehow this program just teaches them a lot about just how fun it is to read. So here you have little lamb, again the repetitive, and up here are their new words. And so when they get to a word that's underlined, you could go up here and be like, oh, remember it's say, like we say the word. And they go down, and then they just have 3 simple questions on the back, and then a matching. Match Asa and Baba, and then your verse that you fill out. Pace tests and everything are matching stuff that they have to sound out. Really pretty easy. They're just basically working on the reading, getting the reading really, really down. So there's no history projects or anything like that. It does go through in science. Here's again more reading, some matching, another verse, and they just go through just practicing reading. Every page builds up their confidence a little bit more. And then by the end they're reading, this is the first pace of science and social studies, by the end they're reading longer things and they're more confident and they can almost do it on their own. Just sit down and you could just listen to them read. So that is the first grade curriculum. It has turned out many successful readers in our family. Our fifth one's going through it right now. If you want to know about the kindergarten curriculum, I have a video out about that. I'll link that below. This is first grade ACE, and it's just phenomenal. It's really good. Feel free to message me. I also have an Instagram account that I will attach below if you want to follow me. I do a lot more of our day-to-day things on there. So I hope you guys all have a blessed day, and I hope this helps.